Ireland is known for its stunning scenery, and the most beautiful road trip of all has to be the Wild Atlantic Way. The Wild Atlantic Way is a 2,600-kilometre stretch of coastline that encompasses castles, coastal views, quaint towns, and much, much more. Over the next 5 days, we're going to be exploring the southern half of it, all the way from the Ring of Kerry up north towards Galway. On the way, we're going to explore top attractions, hidden gems, and even meet some of the locals. So let's go and see what the Wild Atlantic Way has to offer. Today, we're going to be driving around the Ring of Kerry. We're starting off the day in Killarney National Park, which isn't actually part of the Ring, but is very close by. This stunning national park is home to lakes, the highest mountain range in Ireland, and a number of castles. Ross Castle was built in the latter half of the 15th century for the Clan O'Donohues. It was one of the last castles in Ireland to surrender to Oliver Cromwell's Roundheads during the Irish Confederate Wars. Today, you can visit for a small fee. We've now driven a few kilometres down the road to reach Muckross Abbey. This is easily one of the best places to visit in Killarney, and the ecclesiastical building actually lies in ruins. Apparently it's simply stunning. Hopefully it's as beautiful as everyone says. The monastery you see today actually dates back to the 15th century and was eventually abandoned by Franciscan monks in the 1650s due to the fact that Cromwell forces arrived in the area. However, local legends suggest that the monastery dates all the way back to the 6th century when St. Finan herself founded the abbey, meaning that it's one of the oldest places of worship in Ireland. The abbey is particularly well preserved, including its cloisters, and it's worth noting that the burial ground outside is actually still used as an active burial ground to this day. It's even rumoured that some local O'Donoghue chieftains are buried within the grounds. The abbey is completely free to visit, and you can even go upstairs where you get amazing views onto the cloister, the burial grounds, and you really get a feel for the size of the place. We just realised that you can go up the tower, but like many of these types of places across Ireland, the walls are very narrow, so it's not very good if you have claustrophobia. When you get to the base of the tower, there are some steps, and so you think that you can get all the way to the top, but we've got as far as you can get because look what's above me. All the steps are gone. I don't use a lot of travel apps when I'm on the go, but one that I use pretty frequently during my travels, including during recent trips to Japan and Dominica, is Airalo, and so I'm happy to be partnering with them today. Now, if you've never heard of Airalo before, they're actually the world's first eSIM store with plans in over 200 countries and regions and used by over 20 million travellers, including me. This means you can buy affordable data plans to use abroad without worrying about huge roaming fees. Thanks to Airalo, if you use my code SophieNadeau, you can actually get $3 off your first eSIM. Airalo is super easy to use. You just need to open the app, Select the country or region that you're visiting, choose the data plan you think you'll need, pay for it, and then install and activate it on your phone. This week, we'll be driving along the Wild Atlantic Way, and whether it be checking directions or searching for a local place to enjoy lunch, I'm happy to stay connected during our trip. Get $3 off your first eSIM using the code SOFINADO. You can use the QR code on screen or alternatively use the link in the description box below. Our next stop before we head onto the Kerry Ring itself is Tork Waterfall. Now apparently it's only a 5-minute walk away and I can already hear the running water. The falls are really beautiful and quite easy to get to since they're only 5 minutes from the car. Unfortunately, this does mean that it's very busy, but you can still get some lovely shots. There are some people climbing in the falls, but I have chosen not to do this since I broke my toe in Dominica. No more waterfall climbing for me. While you're driving the Ring of Kerry, you'll find that you'll often want to stop off at little viewpoints. And one of my favourite viewpoints at the start of the day was this one on Muckross Lake. Lady's View is probably the most photographed landscape viewpoint in Ireland. It's simply stunning, especially on a clear day like today. And the name actually comes from the fact that during 1861, Queen Victoria came to visit Ireland and her ladies in waiting absolutely loved the view. And who wouldn't? We stopped in a delightful little town by the name of Sneem for lunch. The name actually means a knot in Irish, and though no one is quite sure of how Sneem got its name, it's often referred to as the knot in the Ring of Kerry as it's surrounded on all sides by wild beauty. You can easily wander around for an hour or so and admire all of the colourful houses. Just behind me is Staig Fort. This is one of the best preserved Iron Age forts in Ireland, and it's also one of the largest. It probably dates all the way back to the 3rd century BCE and would have likely been built for a local king or chieftain who needed great security. Once upon a time, there would have been lots of little outhouses and other buildings within the fort, and it's also very sheltered in the valley. On the hills above, it's way windier, even though it's a bit windy here. Anyway, let's go in and check it out. Once inside, you can even walk along the walls and enjoy views of the surrounding valley and see the local sheep. Although the Ring of Kerry can be very busy, if you look hard enough, you can find some places where there are hardly any other tourists. For example, we're almost alone right now in this Iron Age fort, and to be honest, it's amazing. At some point during the 12th century, the monks who lived on Michael Skellig Island decided that it was just too rough and difficult to live there, and so they abandoned it and decided to move here. What you see today probably dates back to the 15th century, although unfortunately most of it has been eroded away by the sea. Nevertheless, it's completely quiet and beautiful and serene here, and I really recommend a visit as it's a bit of a hidden gem of the area. We're really close now to the very western edge of the Ring of Kerry, and it's from here where you can see Skellig Michael, which is most famous because it was used as a Star Wars filming location. It's around 10 miles away out to sea, so it's very, very far away, but luckily we have quite good visibility today. It's also very windy. Port Magee is named for the infamous smuggler Theobald Magee, who lived here in the 18th century. He had been an officer in the army of King James, but eventually retired to a life of smuggling. It's actually thought that his strange death in 1724 in a monastery in Lisbon was due to a local MP kind of exiling him. But it is rumoured that his wife and his children carried on the smuggling business after that. Today, Port Magee is a beautiful seaside town with lots of colourful houses, and the main industry here remains fishing, so you'll see lots of fish and chip shops. The Cara River viewing point is best viewed at sunset, and it's here where you'll get to see all kinds of things the island is so famous for, including farmland animals, running water, and gorgeous green landscapes. Today, we're going to be exploring the Dingle Peninsula. This is a really popular alternative to the Ring of Kerry, as it's got everything the Irish countryside is known for, from farms to rolling green fields to beaches and quaint towns. Something that the Wild Atlantic Way is particularly famous for is its amazing beaches. This is Inch Beach, and it's a 5-kilometre stretch of golden white sand that's also blue flag recognised. From here you have amazing views onto the Ring of Kerry as well as the Atlantic. It's just breathtaking, and the peculiarity of this beach is that you can actually drive your car onto it, although drivers are requested to remove their cars before the tide comes too high. The name Inch comes from Irish, meaning river meadow, and it's also the name of the little settlement just behind me. And I can't believe it because it's only 16 or 17 degrees outside, but there was someone swimming in the water. I'm not going to, I think it's too cold, but I guess you're welcome to if you feel like it. Minard Castle is a particularly well-preserved Tower House castle ruin that was built during the 16th century of local sandstone. It has particularly commanding views over the surrounding bay, but was unfortunately damaged by Cromwell troops in around 1650. Today, its crumbling remains are really impressive to see, and it's well worth making your way down towards the beach in order to see it. Dingle is the largest town on the Dingle Peninsula, but that's not saying much because there's fewer than 1,700 residents here. However, what there is a lot of is pubs. It's thought that there are around 50 pubs in Dingle, which means that there's one per every 40 residents. Today, you'll find a thriving, colourful town with lots of shops, cafes, and also lots of local handicrafts. The main thing to buy here is woolen products, which isn't great on a day like today, but it's normally very cold here, so it's very useful. Dingle is also the gateway to the Slayhead Drive. We're right here and we're going to drive this bit now.
Welcome, my name is Jerry. This is an aerial view of the fort. This was an ancient palace where the chieftains lived, where the druids performed the rituals. It's shaped like an egg, which is a symbol for fertility. Twice a year, in spring and autumn, on the equinox at sunrise, the sun comes over this wall, through this doorway, down through the underground tunnel, and lights up 3 stones 7 metres west underground. Also, the centre of these 3 huts align with Orion's belt, similar to the pyramids of Giza. So these were highly advanced people with serious mathematics.
So apparently, if you go through this small hole, then there's another of the smaller beehives inside. It's pretty tiny, so Antoine can't fit, but hopefully I'll be able to show you the inside. I hope there's enough light for it. You can pass me the camera. So I think this is the second beehive. I'm literally crouched down right now. This is in a second opening. Before we left, we had the chance to talk to Jerry about what life is really like on the Dingle Peninsula. So how long have you lived here?
All my life.
Do you speak Gaelic? Because I've heard that this is a really Gaelic-speaking region.
Yes, Gaelic is my first language. Yeah, so I was 4 years of age before I spoke any English. So, yeah, I can... It's féile me lout like go fláin.
What does that mean?
It means I can speak to you freely in Gaelic.
Oh, wow. What's the best thing about living on the Dingle Peninsula, apart from how beautiful it is?
I just love everything about it. The people, the landscape. It's just peaceful. It's natural. It's stunning. I can never get tired of it.
If you're looking for light refreshments, then you can visit Kruger's, which dubs itself as the most westerly bar in Europe. It's a pretty fun atmosphere and the views are even better. We've just arrived at Dingle Pier. The road to get here is a little bit narrow, but once you're at the place, there is a lot of parking. And from there, you can enjoy the amazing views that make the western edge of the Dingle Peninsula so special. From here, because it's a clear day, we have great views onto the Blasket Islands, including onto Skellig Michael, which is even farther away, but it has perfect visibility today. Dingle Pier itself is obviously very famous for its pier. The Sleigh Head Drive is only around 50 kilometers, and so if you drive it continuously, it will only take around an hour. However, you should set aside at least 3 to 4 hours because every time you turn a corner, it gets even more beautiful. This is the Weymouth viewpoint, and the views, as you can see, are simply stunning. We can see so much of the peninsula from here, and you really get a good perspective of how large this coastline is. Obviously, we're really lucky with the weather today, which isn't always the case in Ireland, which is what makes it so green. But if it is bad weather when you come, then one silver lining is that you could find puffins or cormorants hanging out here because these are birds that really like it when it rains as they come inland in these moments. Connemara Pass is the highest mountain pass on the Wild Atlantic Way. On a clear day, you can see all the way to the Aran Islands of Galway. Today, it's partially clear, so we have amazing views all the way onto the sea, though not necessarily to the islands themselves. It does get very busy here because of the spectacular views, but if you come around sunset like we have, then you'll find that there are fewer people around. Driving the Connemara Pass can be an adventure in of itself because the road can get a little narrow in places. However, if it's a clear day, you should be fine. It's advised not to do it at all in heavy rainfall, but even a small SUV fits through the roads. Just be prepared to reverse. To be honest, most people are very friendly when you're driving in Ireland. It's not like some of the other places we've been, and lots of people are courteous and will make sure to leave you enough room to pass. So don't worry too much. Today, we're going to be exploring the Loop Head Drive. Now, this is actually one of the most remote places to visit in Ireland and probably the remotest region of the Wild Atlantic Way because it can be a bit tricky to get to. In order for us to reach it, we're actually going to take a car ferry, but you can also drive all the way around the headland to reach it. In any case, we've been promised birds, amazing monastic ruins, lighthouses, and more. We're aboard the Shannon Breeze. This is a really cool car ferry that takes around 20 minutes to cross the Shannon estuary, although it saves over an hour on your actual car journey, so it's really worth it if you're trying to pack a lot into your day. It is a bit pricey as it's up to €25 per car, but on a clear day like today, you get amazing views over the water. Carrigahoe is a small fishing village whose name means Rock of the Fleet. Here you'll find some pastel-hued houses, a delightful harbour and a 15th century castle. Despite the fact that it is pretty tiny, it's actually the largest village on the peninsula here, and so it's your final port of call to get food and drinks before heading on towards the lighthouse. Like many places on the coastline, Amelia serves up sandwiches, quiches and hot drinks. On the way to our next spot, we actually stumbled on the ruins of the Church of St. John the Baptist. I couldn't find much online about this, but some people seem to believe that this was once a medieval monastic site. This is probably one of the best kept secrets of the peninsula, and it's one of the main reasons I wanted to come. The story behind this simple wooden structure is quite fascinating. You see, in the 19th century, local Catholics didn't have a place of worship. They would have to travel over 5 miles to get to their nearest place of worship, which was obviously too far for most people to get to because they didn't have transportation at that time. And so they did try to find a number of solutions in order to be able to worship. They made makeshift tents, they used abandoned houses, they used their own houses, but one wealthy landowner who was Protestant, Marcus Keene, put a stop to all of that. And despite Catholic emancipation, which meant that they weren't meant to be able to worship, they weren't able to. So one man, Father Michael Meehan, came up with an ingenious solution. In 1852, he built the Little Ark. And the idea was that it would be rolled down to the beach using a local plough horse, as the beach was no man's land. For 5 years, all kinds of Catholic services were able to take place thanks to this little ingenious structure. Weddings, funerals, christenings, all kinds of events took place until 1857, when the Catholics of the area were granted permission to finally build a church. Today, Father Michael Meehan is remembered as a local hero because he persevered in the face of adversity, and today you can visit the Church of the Little Ark for free. There's actually a heritage centre right next door, but it's unfortunately closed for a few days because of some sort of power problem. Kilbaha, I hope I'm saying that right, is a tiny little village at the end of the peninsula close to the lighthouse. There's only one pub here, and there's also this really quaint gallery. There's not much else here, but there are lots of cows.
We are open just 11 years last week. We opened on the 4th of July. We felt that Independence Day would be a good day to open our gallery, and it's been a real adventure. It's been crazy. Myself and my sister-in-law own it, and we both come from a family of artists, although neither of us are artists ourselves.
I don't think I've ever seen such a beautiful gallery that's so full of artwork. How many artists are represented here?
We currently have 55 artists on our books, and we have a website, kilbahagallery.com. Everything that you see on the website is on the shop floor. So we don't hold art in storage. We try to have everything out because it's very important, I think, that people get to see and experience the different varieties. Like, no two pieces are the same, and even if it comes down to the same artist, you know, each piece is sort of really unique, and we always feel that selling art is needle in a haystack. It's finding the perfect person for the perfect piece.
What are some of the more unique mediums that you have on display right now?
Listen, everything goes, like when you say mixed media, people have a preconceived idea what that is, but one of our artists, Carmel T. Madigan, is born and reared here at the Bridges of Ross, and her rock pool paintings behind you literally have sand and seaweed. So literally bringing the rock pools to a piece. So that mixed media for me is very tactile, it's very real, it's very organic, and you get a really good sense of it. Obviously there's oils, acrylic, photography. We try to have a good varied of different type of artists. Like you could have the most heaviest oils that you'd see in a Mark Elder painting to oils that are almost brushed back like a Dorothy Ledwick. So we're very lucky in the mediums, but we have one rule here, and it's we only sell what we love.
And what is your favourite thing about running the gallery?
Definitely meeting people. I love it. It's amazing how anybody ends up on Loop Head. I'm always stunned that someone is going to end up here. We're 2 kilometres from the lighthouse, and that's the nearest stop to America. So it's quite a random place to come out to. And as you can probably hear, it's busy now even today. So we're very lucky.
My final question was going to be, what's the best thing about living here?
You know, obviously you're outside, you can see it. It's big sky country and lovely fresh air, but most definitely it's the community, it's the people of Kilbaha. That's what makes Loop Head the best place in the whole world.
And how can people find the Kilbaha Gallery?
You can find us on Facebook or Instagram, Twitter, whatever you're on, we're on it too. So you can go into our website, which is kilbahagallery.com, and have a look at the gallery. We have, as I said, 55 different contemporary Irish artists, and we ship all around the world.
Thank you so much for
taking the time. Thanks really for having us. Thank you both.
Right at the end of Loop Head, you'll find a few points of interest. Firstly, there's the lighthouse. This dates all the way back to 1854. You can now visit for a small fee. There's also the leftovers of a World War II sign, which could only be seen from the sky, and that's the IR-45. And finally, it's really worth noting that while this trail is known as the Loop Head in English, it's actually known as the Leap Head in Irish. The Bridges of Ross is so called because once upon a time there would have been 3 stone natural arches here in the water. Today only 1 survives, but the rest of the area remains very impressive geologically. There's all kinds of cool rock formations here. Sometimes you can even spot dolphins in the water nearby. Today we'll be exploring a few hidden gems in the north of County Clare. Now this area is probably most famous for the Cliffs of Moher, but we're going to take you to an amazing ruined abbey as well as a very special garden. We'll then head up the coastline to reach Galway. This is called Connemara Abbey and it dates all the way back to the 12th century. The Cistercian monk order actually arrived in Ireland in around 1142, and their preference was to go to more hidden secret areas where they wouldn't be attacked by would-be raiders. This valley is absolutely perfect because it's quite fertile on the ground here, but once you head up into the hills, it's just sheer rock faces. It's very barren there. This abbey itself is very well preserved. You can see the remains of the cloisters, and today it's in use as a cemetery. When I was researching the best things to do on the Wild Atlantic Way, I came across a very special garden, which was created by one man, Carl Wright. He leads tours of his garden on a daily basis in the summer, and we got to go on one.
Well, you're very welcome to Cowbridge Garden. Welcome to my world of madness. It's quite a new garden. I only started building it in 1999. It's not the most obvious place to make a garden because I really picked the worst possible place I could ever think of. There's a lot of things against you here. I suppose the big one is the weather. It is awful, and this is a microclimate. I mean, there is no soil here. It is just literally limestone pavement. It's rock everywhere. And so I've had to come up with all sorts of solutions to the problem. And unfortunately, one of those solutions was to simply import soil or buy soil to do this. I brought in here well over 1,500 tonnes of soil to do this project. It's all been hand sieved as well. So a completely mad project, really. I never sat down and planned it and decided to do this, that and the other. It's kind of evolved over the years. And I got so into it, I was spending all my spare time in the river and in the pond and playing down there. And I just forgot the house altogether. It still isn't finished now, and it never will be at this stage. But anyway, the garden has kind of planned itself in a way, with me just giving it a helping hand.
And you also mentioned during the tour that you take all the stones out and you've built all of these walls yourself. How many walls do you estimate there are?
Well, there's a lot of walls here. There's over 1 mile of walls if you take them at 3 foot height. I started building walls because I just needed to get rid of all the rocks that were in the way. And they've been building walls in the Burren for thousands of years, since the Bronze Age. I always firmly believe that gardens should connect with what's going on around them. And by bringing elements, strong elements of the surrounding landscape into the garden, it just makes that connection. And the walls are fantastic. Visually and ecologically, they're actually very good as well, because if you're doing dry stone walls, you're creating wildlife corridors. The animals can move through the walls, they can nest in them, feed in them, sleep in them, shelter in them. They're absolutely fantastic for wildlife.
Talking about the surrounding landscape, how do you balance with what you want in the garden specifically as opposed to the natural landscape and how it will flow well?
I need to try and move away from the idea that you are going to put in that garden what you particularly want. And I always say to people, just imagine you're a photographer or an artist, and you take a beautiful photograph or create a beautiful picture, and you want to keep it. So you're going to hang that on your wall, but you're not going to just stick it on the wall. You're going to put it in a frame. So you don't buy the first frame that you see in the first shop that you go into. You put quite a lot of thought into finding a frame that's suitable for that picture. Now, a garden is exactly the same, but completely the opposite way around. You are given the frame. So it's up to you to paint the picture or take the photograph which suits the frame, not the other way around. And that's the difference. You could be anywhere in the world in here, just in the middle of a woodland. And that's great, because I can fill it now with these ghastly pinks and purples and reds and blues, and it won't offend anybody and it won't clash with the landscape.
Are you self-taught then? Have you ever taken a course?
Oh,
How
no,
did you figure it out?
It's all self-taught. It's all done through observation, really. And that is the best education, observation. Yes, you can get degrees. You can get degrees up to your ears. If you haven't got the power of observation, listening, observing, paying attention to what's going on around you, it's worthless. I have a background in ecology. Now that's a huge help, because I understand the wildlife, I understand the birds, the mushrooms, I understand the wild parts of the garden from my ecology background. But the actual garden side of things, no, it's all self-taught. And it's just through seeing what works and what doesn't work, yeah.
What is the most wild thing you've been able to grow? What is something that you thought you would never be able to grow here but did work?
That's a difficult one, because a lot of the plants that I do grow shouldn't be here technically, because it is really the wrong environment. things like this, fine. You've everything that these things need. But some other things, say aeoniums, which are really, they're from the Canary Islands, plants like that, although they are actually, they are able to grow here, are a lot more of a challenge. One of the big problems we have here is very low light levels. We don't get days like this very often. I mean, the idea that it's always raining in Ireland, well, it does rain quite a lot. So plants that require a lot of light, heat and direct sunshine, they are a challenge. They really are a challenge. But I don't give up. I try. And sometimes I fail. Sure, it doesn't matter. If I fail, and I know that that plant just simply won't work here. So you move on and you try something different.
And then my final question was, what's been your favourite part of the garden to create? What's the part of the garden where every day you woke up and thought, I get to work on that today?
Well, that's another tricky one, and I get asked this question a lot. It depends entirely on the time of the year. In the spring, I have one area that I might like. This time of the year, it's undoubtedly where the hydrangeas are. This is not a winter garden. But in the winter, the very top of the garden is probably the nicest place to be, because you have no garden to look at, but you have got the full view of the landscape in its winter clothes. So I have different parts of the garden which I'm happiest in at different times of the year, depending on the season.
And how can people visit the garden?
Very easily. I'm open pretty much every day, but not every day, all through the season. So we'll say May, June, July, August into September. All you have to do is book by phone or by email, or you can message the Facebook page. But yeah, and it's a guided tour. It takes usually about an hour and a half. Depends on the weather and it depends on the people.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
Well, you're very welcome.
We'll be back.
Good, great, nice to hear it, and enjoy your time here.
Galway is the biggest city on the Wild Atlantic Way, but that's not saying much because it's only home to around 85,000 people. Today it's home to shops, bars, and lots of pubs. If you want to learn more about the history of Galway, then you can come to the Galway City Museum, which is right next to the Spanish Arch. It's believed that the arch probably dates back to 1584 when it was built as an extension to the 12th century Norman walls. It would have probably been constructed to stop looting from nearby merchant ships because the port is right next to us. The Latin Quarter is the beating heart of Galway, and this is where you'll find lots and lots of pubs, bars and restaurants. The main street is Quay Street, which is pedestrian only, and it's here where you'll find the oldest pub in Galway. If you get a chance to go inside, then Ty Nupton has actually been serving the people of Galway since 1894, making it the oldest pub in the city. It's also got some pretty surprising decor. Tea Collie was recommended by a number of people to me, as this is the bar you go to if you want to listen to live music. Unfortunately, we actually ended up visiting between sessions, but the atmosphere was still pretty lively. If you're a book lover, then Charlie Burns Bookshop is an absolute must. Here you'll find all kinds of old and new publications. Today we're going to be exploring Connemara. This is an area that's known for its amazing lakes, its mountainous scenery, and its white sandy beaches. There's a huge plethora of nature to see here, and the best thing is it's a really easy day trip from the city of Galway because it's only around an hour or two to drive here. This area is also known for the Connemara pony. Clare Fjord is one of only 3 fjords in Ireland. Because this is the most spectacular of the 3, many people assume it's the only one, but the other 2 were also formed by glacial activity. It's pretty spectacular to think about, but 20,000 years ago, you would have been able to walk all the way to Norway using the ice because this was all covered in ice. Today, Clare Fjord is actually used for mussel farming, and you can see the mussel farm in the bay. Moher Abbey was built for Benedictine nuns who fled Belgium during World War I. Today, it's a stunning example of Gothic architecture from the Victorian period, and you can actually visit some of the inside rooms for a small fee. The outside is simply gorgeous, especially on a non-windy day like today, when you can see the reflections in the water. Omi Island is a tidal island, which means that it can only be reached at low tide. When you look at where I am, it just looks like the beach, but in actual fact, this is technically a road leading to the island. Once you get there, you'll find ruins dating back to the 6th century, and the island itself today is probably best known for the horse races which take place here annually. The Sky Road is a panoramic drive which begins and ends at Clifton, which is the capital of Connemara. If you come to the viewing point, then you have amazing views onto the Atlantic, and you might even get to meet some of the local horses. Clifton Castle is a 19th century Gothic revival mansion which lies in ruins. It's a short walk from the car park and it's completely free to visit, although donations are appreciated. Once you get here, there are ruins to explore and beautiful views onto the surrounding sea. This is Pine Island, and it's so called because it's a little island that's home to lots of pine trees. It's really picturesque, and if you come on a clear day like today, you'll get beautiful reflections in the water. The really cool thing about coming here is that there's actually a little walkway that will take you onto the island. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more Europe travel content. See you next week.